This November, we're celebrating the scholars you probably never heard of but definitely should have. And here's a quick question for you. How do we typically categorize biological sex? If you said the X and Y chromosomes, then you'd be absolutely right. But do you know who discovered that? I'm willing to bet you don't, because the person who made that discovery has been systematically erased from most scientific history for over a century. Her name was Nettie Marie Stevens. In 1905, she was studying mealworms under a microscope at the Bryn Mawr College in Pennsylvania. She was looking at their chromosomes and noticed something curious. Male mealworms had two types of sperm. Some carried what she called a large chromosome, others carried a small one. Females only had the large chromosome, and when she bred them, the pattern was clear. Offspring that got the small chromosome from their father became male, and the ones that got the larger chromosome became female. She just discovered the chromosomal basis of sex determination. The large chromosome is what we now call the X chromosome. The small one is the Y. This was a monumental discovery, a cornerstone of genetics. So why haven't you heard of it before? Because the credit went to someone else. Thomas Hunt Morgan was a prominent geneticist at the time. He corresponded with Stevens, and his letters show him asking for experimental details. He was learning from her work. Yet when the history books were written, Morgan was credited with discovering sex determination. Stevens was reduced to a footnote if she was even mentioned at all. Even more insulting, he wrote a somewhat dismissive obituary for Stevens when she died of breast cancer in 1912, noting that he thought she didn't have a broad view of science. Morgan didn't make the discovery. Stevens did the painstaking microscope work, bred the mealworms, documented everything with scientific rigor. Morgan was influential and well connected. When he wrote the first major genetics textbook, he centered his own contributions and downplayed hers. Textbooks have a terrible tendency to copy each other, so Stevens' erasure became codified in scientific education for generations. A woman did the work and a man took the credit. The pattern, though, is unfortunately disturbingly common in science because the structures of scientific authority were built by and for men. Having your name attached to a discovery wasn't just about being there when it happened, it was about having institutional power, publishing clout, and the ability to control the narrative. Stevens had the science, but Morgan had the platform. Stevens' discovery revealed that sex determination is chromosomal. It was radical for 1905 and is still relevant now as we grapple with the understandings of sex, gender, and biology. We're only now starting to correct the record. Some modern textbooks finally now credit Stevens properly. There are awards in her name, but for a century we taught generations of students about sex chromosomes without telling them who discovered it. And that's not an oversight, that's a choice. So keep learning and keep questioning.